Somebody has their speakers on.
Yeah. Thank you for muting that as well too.
Sorry.
We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week.
Hello.
Hello, lads, lasses, and NB badasses. Welcome to the
Hello
Alchemy
to the
bench.
fuckboys, Joe, Marty, Vonrick, Ely, Mithril, and the fuckboys again.
So we're here at Alchemy bench is like the usual regular irregulars of me, Summer and Geek. Over there's Isaiah, and if you're wondering what's on in the background, that's he's over explaining to us. That's Castaway. So that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's Tom Hanks trying to break up a marriage like a jerk.
I hope we don't get I don't get copyright infringement for having this song in the background.
No, it's
fine.
too small, too fuzzy, too weird an angle.
And also the end of the movie, so it's not like it's playing the whole thing.
Oh no! If you play more than 5 seconds of any portion of a clip, then they can recognize it. Then it will give you a copyright strike.
Okay.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, they have bots for that essentially.
Well,
They could not give two shits what the actual context is.
I just want think having this on would constitute copyright or something.
Mm-hmm. But and also drop.
Don't watch it through this stream. Pirate it somewhere else.
Yes, we're all about piracy here, but
Or I mean, this movie's on VHS somewhere. Go to your local Goodwill and get it for 99 cents.
yes.
Wow, it probably is on VHS.
Yes, it is.
You
It
can
was
go
in
to the library and get it for free as a rental.
Right? Yeah.
the libraries is a solid bet though, and there you can also support your local libraries. Oh well, you have to support your local libraries if you pay league fees. So.
They're called socialist reading departments.
Hey, Joe McClory, only to those who don't understand what socialism is. But anyway, yes, and also over there being the cat and being the asshole like he always is John Brockman. Oh wait, it's only kind of an asshole. And then and we're invited and we're joined with us with a guest who's going to steer the show for the most part with his questions as it were. Russell, aka Kirok. How you doing, Kirok?
Hey, Kira.
Good. How are you guys doing?
I don't know. I went to wake up a lot earlier, but managed to wake up in enough time to binge watch some of the prep work I set for myself, or you gave us, honestly. Hey, check this out, check this out, check this out. It's okay, fine. Because I was wanting to do it yesterday, but I was working a lot, so yeah. But so a little tired, but same as always. I'm always a little tired.
Oh, I hear you. The joys of working. So I manage a store, and I've been having employee troubles.
Interesting.
But not for the reasons you may think.
Okay.
I live in the heart of downtown, or I don't live there, but my job is in the heart of downtown, and we get a pretty rough crowd. In fact, there's only one other C-store that pretty much has it worse than us, and I'm glad I don't work at that location. But I'll hire people, and they'll get a taste of it and be like, you know what, this is not for me, and leave. So that's been the challenge I've been going through. I mean, I could offer them $16 an hour, $17 an hour. Keep in mind, the state of Nebraska, cost of living here isn't as expensive as, say, New York, California.
Florida.
What's that?
I said Florida's also getting pretty expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But we do suffer from inflation problems here. It's just not bad. For example, again, I work at C-stores, so we sell cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And many people that come from out of state are like, wow, you guys are only $8-9 for the name brand cigarettes. We got to pay $20 here. If that gives you kind of a perspective of the price differences. I've heard like New York to live in New York to have an efficiency apartment, it's like $1,100, $1,500. Here, you can get an efficiency for under 500.
But who would want to live in Nebraska, though? Speaking of piracy, skulls and bones and at the best, and do not recommend. I see.
And yes, there is a VHS copy of Castaway. I have one. Yeah, and it is
Nerd.
99. So that's Goodwill.
So, what about Nebraska that you don't specifically like?
I have nothing wrong with Nebraska, but like, why would? But just like, that's the thing. Why? And it's like just because like people, it's people who are like.
It's full of nothing but corn goblins.
It's people who are born in Nebraska, and that's it. I don't know if anyone that wants to move to Nebraska, other than like say work, or that's the only place that they can find work as well too.
Aside from, well, now it's changing, unfortunately, but I would say about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was growing up as a kid in Nebraska, there was hardly any crime. Yeah, we had crime, don't get me wrong. But a murder probably every couple of years, as opposed to other states that have murders constantly. Now in Nebraska, we have a murder every year. It's gotten bad.
Who's committing the crimes?
I mean, you have an actual city in Nebraska. I mean, it's only Lincoln, but you do have a city. I'm sure there was more than one murder every few years. It just didn't get publicized.
That's probably true.
Oh, oh God, our people are taking over again. We're bringing crime with us.
Nebraska is primarily white, so most of the people committing these crimes are white.
Okay, that's good. Ooh, thank God.
Yes, let's talk about the white on white crime, which is just crime.
When someone says crime in cities, I was like, oh.
But yeah. I say your instinction is good because when politicians talk about crimes in the cities like Chicago, that's like a euphemism for just like black people.
We already know. It's like, oh shit. He said there was crime in Nebraska. Nebraska's a mostly white state. There's crime. Oh shit. I can already connect the dots already where this is going.
I bet there's still chapters of like the KKK in Nebraska, and it's kind of like as one comedian said, it's like.
I don't know about chapters. They don't read that much.
Okay, whatever the D&D term is it for, because like borrowed the terms from D&D, as it were, because they're just a bunch of dorks that are bigoted people. But it's just like, yeah, one comedian said, like, why are there like KKK in Idaho? We're against Jerome and Tyrone.
I mean, Idaho having KKK. I don't know. Maybe like neo-Nazi, sure. Idaho isn't as redneck as Mississippi.
Yeah, there's that as well too. But again, it's just like they're against a very small.
Oh no, Idaho is full of neo-Nazis.
Yeah,
that I can believe. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
It's
like Mississippi is like the KKK. Idaho has like the neo-Nazis, and like it's like the rednecks versus the neo-Nazis. I don't know.
The fascists.
Yeah, neo-Nazis aren't really rednecks, are they? They're kind of just.
Well, the thing we'll remember is like the original term for like redneck is that they were like labor activists, as it were too. Yeah. Red for like the red scarves that they wear around the necks as well too. So
I thought it was because like the sun would burn their necks.
Yeah, it was mostly because of sunburns. It was a working class thing.
Yeah, makes sense. Which is why which is why like there are like people that like like taking a redneck to mean back to its like roots, like redneck revolt as well too.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to learn not to say it as much anymore because it can come off as like a classist slur to white folks that are on our side. So I guess maybe like troglodyte is probably a better term.
That probably
That's
has eugenical stuff
Yeah.
going
That
along with
probably
it.
does, yeah. Because I guess whenever people use that term, it's where it's kind of like to demean the other person in that way, as in like a lesser being, as word. So it's just like, can we just like, and that's something that's like the kind of like ableist language just is so baked into like the way of speaking, as word too. That like, not to say that these words kind of like slurs, but like they're like kind of like ableist words, like hello, Metro, good evening to you, like stupid, moron, and dumb, as it were. What's the point of like using those words to like to talk about someone, as it were too? But saying it's about something, I guess, is like it can be that's something to debate. But saying about like someone, as it were too, you're demeaning the person's intelligence. Why are you doing that?
In the 1998 Godzilla, one of the characters uses the R word,
Mm,
R tard. Um,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. May I did laugh a bit because like I don't know. I guess it's like this. I don't know. But see, like they use the word, like they use that word, but then like they use like a slur for Italian folks, the W word. But the person who said that was Italian, so I don't know.
Interesting. I don't know my bigotry. The W word for this is for Italians.
It's
Wog.
it's
Oh, okay.
Or
Yeah, I
wop.
don't know my bigotry.
yeah yeah.
Wog,
Okay,
wop, there's a couple.
I have heard WAP.
I didn't want to say it because
Yeah, exactly. You're allowed to say the N word, but you're like, I appreciate you for not wanting.
I don't say the N word either.
Oh, that's fair, honestly.
So yeah, I just like when I heard the word jigaboo for the first time, I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what's a jigaboo? What's that?
Yeah, it's like it's a good thing you don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but like had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, yeah, I don't learn racial slurs. Am I supposed to?
It's kind of like, I mean, that shows how good of life you have when you don't know what racial slurs are until they're told to you.
I
But then again,
guess.
that's it as well.
And I mean, I grew up in a majority white suburb when I was a kid, and we've never had any racial incidences in our neighborhood.
because you're the one black kid. Yeah.
I don't know. It was people were either just really nice, or I was just really sheltered, or I was just really naive. I don't know. Maybe all three.
Or they didn't say the words that or some of them didn't say the words like in front of you to be polite. One of the
Right.
rare times that like being
That's
polite
true.
actually is like beneficial. Poor conservatives is the term I like. Yeah, yeah, no, John McClaren, I can agree with that, honestly, because that is also accurate to like what we're describing, referring to the conversation about like rednecks and like the economic despair white person, as it were too. But anyway,
This is something I hate about the state I live in. This is a red state, and I hate that.
yeah. Have you tried to convincing other people of like not being like conservatives? Because I've been trying to convince liberals not to be liberals.
No, I find it a waste of my time.
Is yeah, when people other people ask like, hey Jonathan, why don't you like talk to the conservatives? It's where I was in a DM Twitter Twitter group, a DM group with a bunch of like right wingers as were, and having conversations, sure, but when they were constantly sharing like transphobic memes, I had an issue with that. And then also one of them, it actually was a dem sock or a sock dem or like a leftist, but saying racial slurs all the time. To my friend, who's a black person. And most of the group either was silent about it, except for me, or defended that, including a narco-capitalist that was defending that too. I left that group like soon after like my friend was disgusted at the bigotry thrown in his face and how like most of the group either like didn't have a problem with it or like they even defended it. And speaking of like bigotry thrown at a black person, as I said, you have your hand up for some reason.
Yeah. So because I didn't want to think I was interrupting every time I wanted to say something.
No problem. Yeah, that works.
I'm being autistically polite.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so about converting people. So actually this week I had I had a conversation with a minority Trump supporter and an autistic conservative on Reddit. So
Oh. I mean,
yeah,
there are quicker and easier ways to commit suicide.
no. It, it was actually a
No, no, no.
pretty
I'm talking about them, not you.
it was a pretty good conversation. You know, we didn't yell at each other. I explained why I was a socialist, being and why I thought capitalism wasn't good. The Reddit autistic conservative basically said, well, capitalism has lifted people out of poverty, which I mean,
Mm, I mean,
feudalism.
technically, that's not true.
No. Yeah, she also said that she also said that the government shouldn't like maintain like equity quotas. Does the government do that in social? Is there like equity quotas? I don't know what that is.
Again, these people that don't understand what the elected government does. They are projecting what they fear that it does because it's like unfair or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So
Yes.
yeah, there was that, and then with the guy, the minority Trump supporter, he says that he likes Trump because he's a businessman.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, because
Um,
remember Trump still speaks to a lot. Like Trump is like the face of like what black people think they want from like that whole
he's
capitalist
a
system.
professional leech, but he's good at it. Except he's
Yeah,
not, actually.
like it's like money, cars, clothes, and hoes. If that was like in a rap song or something. And
Uh,
I think that's kind of what they see in Trump. He has money,
mhm.
cars, clothes, and a nice girl. No.
I can see Trump actually being big pimping as it were, but he does it in a business suit as well too. As like as the hip hop or it's like propaganda like explains in his podcast Hood Politics that like you'll understand politics. You just don't know the languages that the words that they use. It's all gang banging, but in nice suits as well too.
Yeah.
And yeah, Trump definitely is a gang banger. It literally as well too. Not that, I don't know if he's involved in any gangbangs, but definitely sexual assaults plenty of times.
Does he have
Including,
connections to the mob?
yeah, that too.
Probably. Probably.
That I mean, yeah, that the mafia kind of like their lifestyle as
I'm more
well too.
concerned about his connection with the neo Nazis.
Exactly. But yeah, I just like I don't know some of the people to like complain about like the government and what it does and so where they really assume a lot that the government does as well too.
Government can really pass a spending package. What makes you think the government's gonna come and take your guns away?
They fear it that they'll take their guns away, and that's honestly that's something that it's like they is driven by the gun manufacturers because that's a great way to boost sales of like guns. That's
Yeah.
kind of like fear.
So yeah, it's like it was a we didn't argue about it. We didn't hate each other. I gave reasons why I think, in my opinion, socialism is good for autistic folks. She had a different opinion. People have different opinions in this world. That's just the way it is. And like I explained why why I wanted it, and it was a bit nice to have someone have a different opinion, I guess, about the matter because most people who are autistic are usually left wing, anarchist, socialist, communist, and so
Hello.
so
Because we
yeah,
have empathy and logic.
yeah. I mean, I picked her brain about it, and it was a nice conversation, and we just disagreed, and okay, we moved on, I guess.
Mm.
So
Ah.
I didn't try to convince her to convince her. I
Oh
gave
yeah.
a reason, and I wanted her to come like in I wanted her to come to her conclusion about it. I didn't really want to force her to give up her opinions. Not because like I was trying to be nice, but I like that's just not my way. You listen to other people, they give their opinions about why they believe in what they believe in, and then it's that walk a mile in someone's shoes. Now I would wager that that person, that autistic person who was a conservative, probably is white, mostly
Mhm.
probably grew up in a pretty sheltered environment, was probably probably read about Ayn Rand and had this kind of this weird well, this must be good because, people have their own responsibilities and, they do that and, they don't have, I'm sure she probably like read into that and probably like got her views from that.
Well, also, like, Steve tries to mention this on the Escalade because there was a time that, like, he was conservative, but mostly kind of like by default because, like, the media that he was kind of like consuming was, like, a lot of Rush Limbaugh as well, too. And that is just very common for a lot of people that they just happen to be conservative because, of, like, the family they grew up in or the environment they grew up in or what the media that they happen to consume or they happen to, like, read Iran and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Now she wasn't against social programs existing. She was okay with that.
Interesting.
And she wasn't against social programs. I
But
guess.
she
Go ahead.
I guess she just thinks that needs to be mean tested as well, which they already are. To
Possibly,
hell, unfortunately.
possibly, or she thinks that Well, remember she is autistic, so um, autistic people do need resources. So she's not. So I guess she wasn't going to like throw us all into the bus for that. Although I'm sure if you asked her, she probably thinks that there should be like a work requirement for it, even though there already is.
Yeah, in the UK, I know there's like work requirements for disabled people as well too. Oh, and like I know someone in the UK who's disabled, and like once a year they have to like go to a doctor, go to not to their doctors as well too, and to like prove that they're disabled or something like that, and run tests in order to like keep their benefits and something like that. And it's always just like a stressful time because it's also demeaning as well too, trying to prove that they're disabled and you're just like, I have not changed since like last year. What makes you think I can suddenly now work and something like that? I told you that I can't work. So and
Jump
yeah.
through the hoops, Crip. Jump. Jump.
As as like it's it yeah you're gonna go on about that as well.
So
But speaking of listening to other people's like different opinions, like Kirok, you wanted to come on to like a
Yeah.
go ahead.
What? I have a question for you, Geek Jonathan.
Sure.
What do you classify as not being able to work?
Why should it be up to me?
I gave now.
I mean, you are advocating for a system from each according to their ability.
Yeah. So then is each according to their ability. If someone tells me I can't do that, or they tell me I have a disability, I go, okay.
well, so this is Kirok who was like okay with like cops. Kirok, okay.
Yes, this is.
No. I have a question. Excuse me. Let me slow down. Let me pick his brain for a minute.
Sure.
Um, Kirok, do you think like custodians should be paid less than like a pop star? Do you think like so right now, the most popular person right now is Taylor Swift, right? And she has all this money and all that stuff. And there's people like me who are custodians and just regular working class folks who, not because they're failures that they didn't apply themselves, but just will never get to that point of being wealthy and famous for, whatever reasons. Do you think that custodians should be paid more than pop stars?
It's not my place to say who gets paid more, but let's put it another way. First off, I've never listened to anything. What did you say your name was?
Taylor Swift.
I said Taylor Swift. It could be any celebrity. It doesn't have to be Taylor Swift. It could be any celebrity.
No, but the point is, celebrities are going to get paid buku bucks regardless. That's,
Do they deserve that?
huh?
Do they deserve to pay buku bucks?
It's what sells.
Yeah.
It's that doesn't answer my question. Do they deserve that?
Is it necessary? Well, it like okay. So you have a custodian, right? Or you have like some like an electrician, some job that we need to make sure society keeps going. Should they be paid? Should a system like we have now, capitalism, should that system continue to give this much money to these people for something that technically we don't really need, or should we have a system where the jobs that people do that aren't glamorous should get at least a living wage so they're not like struggling paycheck to paycheck. I think
Okay.
say
Okay. With celebrities, it's a hard thing to answer because I think celebrities is a matter of luck.
okay.
Yes,
I
I
agree.
do.
Well, I mean, it's all luck all the way down.
Yes, it
It's like
is.
whether or not you're disabled or anything, luck.
Mhm.
Born
Okay,
wealthy,
well-
luck.
Well,
I
is-
have told Jonathan on numerous occasions that disabled people should be able to get assistance. I have never said they shouldn't. I've also said that with capitalism, we should cap billionaires because there's no reason to have that kind of rich and powerful.
But then
The problem with capitalism and communism is they're both a government system. You have a hierarchy in both of them. You have people of power in both of them.
the Soviet model was government socialism.
yeah.
Let's
And the best I can give this the USSR and Cuba and Vietnam and China, not China now, but is that they were attempting to achieve communism. I disagree with their tactics and like how they approach it and go about it, as well as like the whole Dilmore and like, hey, listen, Mal, I agree with you with the sentiment about like land wars, but how you went about it, I think is extreme. Is so. That's where it's like Russell. I disagree. The communism is just like a way of life. It's from each according to your ability and to each according to their need. We and as David Graeber talked about in depth the first 5,000 years, we all act communistically anyway. Take an example at the workplace. I already gave you this example. Oh, hey, can you hand me that bridge? Sure, here you go. That's transaction, if you can call it that. It was handled communistically because the capitalist way is like, what's in it for me, or that'll be $5. Or it's like, oh yeah, I could give you that branch, but like that branch is owned by the big corporation, and the head of the big corporation has like extreme power over us, kind of like fire us as well, and all that sort of thing. And like he's way over there in the other side of the world, that's one like that, and like makes like 500 times as much as like we make. Well, like his work is not essential, you can argue, and like our work is essential as well too. And all these like rules and regulations about like me not being able to give you that branch, even though it's right here.
I want to get back to Isaiah's question.
No, for sure. Yes. Go ahead.
I don't think the celebrity thing was a really fair thing because I think they're overpaid. But if you were to ask me, should a custodian or a McDonald's worker make the same as, say, a doctor who has put in 10 years of schooling, an additional 5 years of teaching in a hospital, and then more years saving lives? Yes, I think a doctor, he, she, they should get more than a hamburger flipper.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that.
What about excuse me? What about the fact that all those schools are gate kept behind wealth barriers rather than merit barriers?
Say that again?
What about the fact that all that schooling is gate kept? The gates are managed by wealth rather than merit. The fact that you have to be somewhat rich at the very least to be able to go to college, to go to med school.
And that leads me to my second thing, with, if I may, Jonathan.
Sure.
You asked in Steve's. Can I bring up Steve here? Or
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We love
Okay.
Steve.
We break him up all the time too.
You asked recently in the Ask Away about private property.
Yeah.
That too is a matter of acquisition. You know, you can't have the kind of property that I'm assuming you were asking about. like Picard living on a vineyard, or he having a nice Porsche. That's a means of wealth.
Mhm.
And what happens when I die? Oh, that would probably be given to one of my kids. That would probably be sent down. Money, which that's, I don't know how you fix that problem. Unless you say that, hey, once a person dies, all their assets gets put back into the system. But then
I don't see why not. Or what? I don't see what's wrong with that. I mean, like, if there's, like, no will or something like that, it's kind of like, I also, and, like, I'm fine with, like, this differentiates between personal property you use. I'm using this computer. I'm using this, like, waifu cup. I'm using this phone. I'm using this, like, hairbrush.
Using this.
It's my these are my personal properties as well, too. Oh, but, like, someone else can like get another hairbrush from the hairbrush factory as well too. Oh, and that sort of thing too. Conservatives mistake like communism in believing that we're going to take everyone else's toothbrushes and redistribute them so that everyone gets like their toothbrushes. No. That's your toothbrush. You keep it. What we're concerned about is the private property of the toothbrush factory. Under the system is often owned by a capitalist or a corporation. And thus, like, they are maybe even a small business owner. And thus, they are a minority of people that are owners. And there are a separate class of people that own those sort of things. And they have they own control of those things and have workers work those machines as well for profit. If we socialists and communists want to take over those factories and then have returned them to the commons as well, or at least return land to the commons, and have the workers manage the factory to make as many toothbrushes according to need. Because, like, and if everyone has then like two toothbrushes and that's enough, the need is met. Turn off the machines at the toothbrush factory. Don't need to make any more toothbrushes and just waste the resources as it were. I mean, you can Google new car graveyard. There's a whole bunch of like new cars because they're making every year because the manufacturing plants that make cars still like produces them as well. Oh, and they just like get wasted and like put into the graveyards, not bought because like no one needs to buy a new car every year. But they keep on making it because like the employees still need to get paid, and everyone.
Well, they keep on making them because the investors need to get paid.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And just to give you an idea of how stupid an idea all that is, the fact that Ford kept on making new cars was part of what drove the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had saturated the market, but he kept on building cars, and that kept driving the steel industry, and the coal industry, and the oil industry, and then the market fell out, and they all crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brockman,
Is that kind of like how Venezuela relied on oil, and then the oil market crashed?
Sort of, except for the fact that was deliberately engineered in order to make Venezuela crash.
True.
real quick
What's up?
on that. My family, well, meaning my ancestors, I met my great-grandmother, but people beyond that, they died before I was born. The ones that lived through the Great Depression, they survived because they were farmers. And that was the only reason they survived.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I have told Jonathan several times, people have always had to do something for contribution. Even back when we were cavemen. Well, cavemen.
Well, not everyone. I want to stop you there, Kirok, because like not necessarily everyone. The children, the toddlers, do they have to like work to contribute in order to like make sure everyone's
They
fed?
were being educated. And
Okay.
that system
Okay.
hasn't changed throughout the years.
But like the people can like do that if they want to as well too, or like make sure that like are like behave not that in the way that like people have to behave in the proper society, but at least behave to like not hit each other unnecessarily.
And the fact is that people did always contribute, and we're not saying that they wouldn't under communism. It's just that people wouldn't do so for the disgusting motivation of personal profit at the expense of others. In the same way that you don't work to profit at the expense of your family members. People
I think-
didn't back in the past.
I think
Oh.
people, well, so I was part of a co-op where we were like artisans. So we would make craft for people. We didn't have like employers or bosses or wages. It was just like, so this was an autistic art co-op where excuse me, an autistic art co-op where we would make our products. Sometimes like the family members would assist their autistic children in making the art, and we would sell it for a price. We did no, we just didn't employ people off the street and pay them a wage to do that. So now you
My question to you, Isaiah, if I can.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
How'd you guys determine what price to sell that for?
Usually labor costs. Usually, so like I'm gonna like guess and say like let's say like it was like like $10 an hour was like the labor cost. There was that. There was also like how much money the supplies were. So putting all of that in, at least on a rudimentary level, you kind of get a rudimentary like how much this is worth, right? So that's how I've always thought of it, but I could be wrong.
So the reason I ask is because that is part of capitalism. You put a price tag on things. You figure out how much the supplies cost. You figure out the labor that it's going to take, and then you figure out a profit margin.
Right. Well, I guess it wasn't like exploitative like I guess other jobs could be, because it was just us work. It was just us doing the work. It wasn't anyone else doing it. So, I guess because it was something we liked doing, that we were willing to put in the effort to make the product because it was something we liked doing.
And it shouldn't be too surprising that a group participating in capitalism would price things after the capitalist fashion.
Because like they price things as it is to try to survive under capitalism, as well as like the people that's running the co-ops or artists to be sell the things. They have to like rent out this place, I bet, in order to have the bazaar and that sort of thing too.
Now
Unless it's-
yeah, I mean, you could argue that we got the supplies from a corporation,
Sure,
Joanne's,
exactly.
Michael's department store,
Mhm.
got it from a corporation, but we were able to like become artisans and make it on our own time and sell it, things like that. And we didn't make a lot of money from it. It was just it was basically like buy, sell, and trade. That's basically what it was.
Mhm.
It was a very like rudimentary like form of capitalism. It wasn't like corporations or anything like that. Because ultimately, it's like what's profitable. Like the Titanic model I'm making is not very profitable because very few people are interested in that.
Children are not very profitable.
Right?
Yeah.
And most
I mean, they are for the
around-
capitalists, but not for their
most
parents.
of the things like autistic people, that's why autistic people suffer under capitalism a lot, because a lot of things we do is not really profitable to the capitalist elite. Like I'm a custodian. That's not really profitable. In any way, shape, or form. Like, yeah, you're just an employee for an organization. So, it's not that it's lifting me out of poverty. It's just like I got a job that I can use and pay my bills and buy things with. It's not that I'm not contributing to a profit.
Some people they just do it for the love of it as well. You make like a model stuff like Titanic for the love of it as well too. And like
Isaiah, I wasn't picking on you. If I had my dream job, and I've told you, Jonathan, this,
Mhm.
I would own a food cart. I would be my own employee, but I would still have to make a little profit to pay bills, just like
Sure.
you did.
Yes, but Kirok, that's the thing. I want to live in the world where there's no such thing as those bills.
Where
to
you
make
could
that-
just do that for the sheer fucking love of it.
I mean, okay, so Kirok, my dream job, if film stuff didn't work out or something like that, I would be, I would want to work either at the Kennedy Space Center, the visitor complex, because I really love space, or like I wouldn't mind working in a fishing village because I love the ocean. So it's like I don't want to like I don't think I'll ever become wealthy. I don't see that ever happening. although shit happens, but like, so I guess what we are trying to say is, why do people who are disabled have to suffer under this system? And then
I
like,
don't. I don't say disabled people should suffer, and I have told Jonathan this many times.
well, not
I mean,
you,
there
but
should be help for people that have disabilities. I say
well,
cap the rich. I say there was an example that I gave Jonathan.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Isaiah. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cut out on you.
If anything, I feel like I'm cutting into you. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying the system as a whole,
Yes.
especially like autistic support services, work within that whole like, oh well, you have to adapt to work in this system, and I'm like, well, why don't you just make a system that's can
You
work?
have to prove that you deserve to live under capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to prove. No, I don't have to prove anything to anyone. Why do I need to prove? I know what
Under
John.
capitalism, but
I don't need to prove anything. At least I don't think I should.
mhm,
You're
you
not
shouldn't.
entitled
But
to an explanation of why I need to work, why I need to survive. You know.
This is going to be kind of hard for me to describe, but Jonathan's going to understand a little bit more because I went into detail with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I had two examples. Now,
Mhm.
for the purposes of this conversation, I am not using their names.
Mhm.
I did use their personal profiles to Jonathan in a DM, and one guy who suffers a major disability, not to mention his mom, when she passed, had plenty of money. Him and his sister were taken care of. And then there's this kid that comes into my store. I have zero respect for this kid whatsoever. He is not disabled.
Why do you care then?
Huh?
Why do you care
Because
about the other person?
he takes advantage of other people. He takes advantage of one of my employees who he's dating. And I don't say anything because it's not my business.
You can't.
Doesn't mean
Well,
it doesn't bother me.
I think it's okay. It's in maybe you don't think it's like your place to like mention into your employee because you're a boss and something like that. And that's like the employee's like personal thing as well too. But like, if you can come out of their friend and say that like they say like this, the person you're dating, I don't think is worth it. But you can say as a friend, that employee can still make their decisions about who they associate with because as us as anarchists, we talk about freedom of association, which means like freedom of association of whoever you want to associate with, but that also means freedom of disassociation. If like the other person's a jerk for whatever reason, registered sex offender, for example, oh, then like
He is.
then people can choose to disassociate with him or not. But like that's
So
the
my
thing.
issue with him, by the way, just so I catch up, Isaiah and Mr. Rockman, real quick, isn't the fact that he just doesn't work. He has committed numerous crimes against people, including sexual assault against women.
Mm-hmm.
There is a record of it, and I have showed Jonathan said record.
Yeah.
My problem is, I think my employee, who I care about as a person, is putting herself in undue necessary risk. Again, not my place to say anything.
You can if is she aware that he's a sexual offender?
Yes, she is.
Okay, then she makes her decision then.
That's exactly right, which is why it's not my place to say anything. Still doesn't mean it don't bother me.
I understand if you're concerned about your like your employee, then that's I can understand that, but it's just like I thought that like your biggest problem with him is that he doesn't work.
Well, that on top of it, he takes advantage of her. He spends her entire paycheck while he sits on his ass and does nothing. Lives in her home, eats her food.
I think we can all agree the guy's a complete piece of shit.
But like, so what? He's like just ignore him.
So what? Your question to me was, does he still deserve food and water? And my response to you was, if he earns it.
Why are you concerned about
Problem.
why do people have to earn food and water?
Somebody in that position? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. He's not disabled. And forgive me, he doesn't have a mental disability.
Well,
Doesn't have a physical disability.
well, hold on. No. Kira, are you a doctor? Are you a psychiatrist? Is that person your patient?
Have you interviewed him? Have you clinically approved him, certified?
Well, no. We're stopping this right here. If a person, I don't know this person at all. So I have no idea if he is or not. And is it my place to say if he is disabled or not? That's my problem, Kirok. Is that like if a person says I'm disabled, I'll believe them. I don't know if this person will say that he's disabled or not.
It might be that in a better organized society, we might look at this guy and say, this behavior is antisocial, there's something wrong here. And we would look at him in a more serious light. As it is, under the everyone for himself, dog eat dog piece of shit that is capitalism, he can get away with this sort of behavior just because we let everyone suffer and starve as they will.
Mm-hmm.
Including your employee.
Behavior be corrected under communism, and moreover, how
We
would this
disassociate from him.
behavior be corrected without policing?
It's what it's Kirok again.
You can replace policing with nursing.
Yes, that's one thing. That's definitely sure. Many the
I would argue when it comes to policing, Kirok, so here in Florida, actually, a couple of days ago, there was a cop that discharged his weapon because an acorn fell in his car. You know, like there's something wrong with our policing where it's like they're it's like they shoot first before they know what's going on, and it's like why it's not like I'm gonna kind of disagree with Geek here and say like I'm not 100% opposed to police abolition. I wouldn't say that because there are just bad people in our society. I just don't know where I just don't get this like need for I guess police to just use force as the first line of defense. I don't.
It
Like,
could never be used for the first line of defense. And I've never said that cops aren't without problems. There are a lot of power-hungry police officers, and there's a lot of racial police officers out there that should be first.
Assholes too. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everyone's perfect in this society. That we don't need some form of law enforcement. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like why can't we like fix like problems like housing and homelessness that it takes the burden off of cops because right now police are supposed to be social workers and all this other stuff and that's not their job. That the job is to.
No, it's not. I'm not sure if you was around for the Q&A. This was a while back. I had asked Steve. I told Steve about a personal situation that happened here in my hometown. Some guy had been threatened by a group of teenagers, came back to a group of teenagers and threatened them with a gun. And they sent a social worker out to do a welfare check on this guy that threatened these kids with a gun, and he shot the social worker. Now, the social worker lived, thank goodness. But my response to Steve was, this situation would have been nipped in the bud had the police responded. Oh, by the way, all parties involved were white.
It's because the police could have shot and killed that person. Do you think that's a better outcome than like everyone living?
They wouldn't have withdrawn. This guy wouldn't have pulled a firearm on cops.
Not sure about that.
We don't know that. It's easy to play what if.
Yeah. I mean, we already talked about like
We agree there's always going to be mentally unstable people. There's always going to be crimes of passion, things like that. We just think that the current policing system is a white supremacist enforcement meant to keep the poor in their place rather than to actually help people. It would take a radically different system that would occasionally require physical coercion.
Mm-hmm. I would hope that in most situations won't require like a physical coercion as well. But I can understand that like some situations that would require physical coercions. You don't need guns for that in this situation as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just saying, I think people should have a right to be safe. I love the notion to get rid of guns. The problem with that is criminals aren't going to listen to it. I love the notion.
I'm also against telling I'm also against telling marginalized people they also got to get rid of guns. Like I'm not a 2A person like that, but I'm just like like if you're a woman or you're like a minority or you're disabled and there's like people fucking with you, and especially like in a state like Florida where your rights are being taken away, especially if you're a trans person, I'm not gonna tell a trans person they shouldn't have a gun. I'm just not gonna do that.
And Osman the Dark in the chat. Hello, Osman. Great to see you. Said like police are trained to be bullies, not soldiers, which is the thing, and that's why you're going to get those jerks and the white supremacists and like get to be in those positions as police officers.
The police are just the surviving arm of the Klan.
Yeah. And they will have the power over others in that frame, and are able to get away with it if they can. Derek Chauvin is the exception that proves the rules because Derek Wilson got away with killing Michael Brown. So, and like Osman.co brings another part. Community can build like something similar to like the '60s like Black Panther Party, but I think Osman would also remember that like. The Black Panther probably showing up in the front of the steps of like the state of California Capitol with like arms with like AKs and something like that with guns was caused by Ronald Reagan to be like pro gun control and take away their guns because like those were not the good guys with the guns as were too. And like Joe McGuire says, like cops don't actually make us more safe; they just make the right people feel more safe.
Mm-hmm.
Is because like if you and back to like the example of like the sex offender that like taking advantage of your employee is or too is like again I'm not gonna like judge like who is disabled. If someone says like I'm disabled, I can't do this, I'll like okay, no problem. If that person also wants to help, they know their own abilities as well. Again, the communism. From each according to their ability. So I'm sure that person can understand what their ability are, and if they want to help, great, and they can contribute how they want to. My point is that I want people to want to contribute to help, and only do so when they can, and when they want to. I'm hard. It is going to take a lot to convince me that there'll be times that like there'll be necessary work that needs to be done, and no one wants to. Because I doubt that world will exist.
Same way we clean up our homes.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the thing about capitalism is that with the whole individualism and atomization thing, everything becomes somebody else's problem.
Yes.
But I mean, if we're all responsible, if it's all ours, then it's all our problem. And eventually everyone, or a significant number, will step up.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we actually take ownership of it, when we are actually participants in it, when we are all benefiting from it, then it's no longer something just for someone else to take care of.
And to how to deal with those people that like don't agree with that social contract as well too, don't associate with them. I mean, we're not gonna like deny them like food if they're starving or like a shelter if like they don't have any, but like. If they're not participating when if they're also it's like to me at some point it's just like I also personally just accept, and I said this many times, like in this current system, if I rather the social welfare program as it is, if we're going to have a state, make it so that like 1,000 people can sit on their ass and do nothing all day but play Fortnite or play video games or watch anime or read books and not do anything to contribute to society. And rather than like what we have now, where like plenty of people are starving, or like I don't want to like one family to starve. So if it means like thousands of people who are sitting around doing nothing, okay, I accept that trade. Because why is it like it should be up to me to decide like no, you can work, you should work. I don't want to force other people to work if they don't want to.
Yeah, I've got disagreements with that part.
And I, I don't think we can ignore the social pressure that would come along with this.
Sure. Peer pressure is a hell of a thing. How many of us have done things because of peer pressure that like we regretted later?
I once killed an elephant because I thought I would feel silly. No, wait, that was George Orwell.
Okay. Yeah. Like state senators sitting on their backsides. Yes, exactly. Like Mr. Yeah, and there's so many like idle rich people that will just sit around and do nothing, but because they're lucky enough to be born wealthy and so on, that they can do that. But yet,
And
like,
a million times you cap that rich.
I rather not. But why are you okay with there being a separate class of people that are rich and then a separate class of people that are poor? I don't agree with that. Having that like the wealth divide either.
Cap the rich, you will have money to give back to the poor, and you'll even out that playing field. You know
The
what's
problem I have there
bothering
is that so long as there are rich people, they will use that wealth to change the laws to make themselves more rich. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, we tried that in the 30s under FDR. It lasted for about 20 years, and then we got Reagan.
Glass-Steagall, don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my problem. 10% is rich, powerful. And when I mean rich, I'm talking billionaires. 10% are in charge of the world. Your presidents, your kings, your queens. 90% is your civilians taking it. If 90% overthrew the 10%, where would we be then?
Anarchism.
Communism.
Yeah.
But that would require the other 10% to recognize that they have something in common with the bottom 10% rather than with the top 10%. And they're what we call useful idiots.
Yeah, people don't realize that like they are like about 3 months or so away of missed paychecks from being in poverty. They're not 3 months.
No, most
away
people
of
are just a single bad day away
Yeah,
from
single
losing their
paycheck.
home.
But like the reverse is not true. They're not like one good paycheck away from being a billionaire.
Yep.
No.
They'll pay to like take thousands of good paychecks to be a billionaire, or 10,000 good paychecks is worth too. So there's a reverse as well. And yeah, the jump going. I'm not against like a. Well, it's just like, it's like the shaming is like the peer pressure and the disassociation, which just such with the people who are like lazy. But if like people is like disabled, and that's where it's just like, I would just like take the word like like this was asked on my like a Twitch stream a while back from a new viewer that like just left as well too. They were inquiring about like Joey Fire Reindeer's like situation, who's still fighting to like still fighting to like not be homeless. So I'm going to share their links into the live chat. The judge determined that they were good enough to like work, and denied them SSI. When it's just like, and Sarah Britt, also a friend of mine, that said this as well too. I can't work on someone else's schedule. There are days that I can like work, sure. There are days I can't, but also, and Kira will be right back. That's fine. Oh, Eel's here. You can listen back to this and hear this, but like, But everybody else says like, yeah, but sometimes the kind of work that they can do is like not it does has to can't involve standing for like 4 hours at a time, which is a lot. A lot of retail is kind of like that, standing for
Hmm.
4 hours at a time is work too. And then like and sometimes they will have like a headache that just won't go away. Hey, so yeah, in the moment like when someone's in front of a judge, it appeared that they're able enough to like work. Then that's denied SSI. So many disabled people have said that they've been denied SSI or something like that because they look able enough to work, but yet they can't, or they can't work for 8 hours, or sometimes they're the only jobs in the area like retail jobs, and some of my friends that are autistic cannot handle those jobs, let alone like the inability to stand for like 4 hours at a time. Just dealing with customers. I worked at a gas station for 4 years, so yeah. I can understand how like some of my friends can't handle that sort of thing too. But
I put in my service at McDonald's one time. Was not something I really liked.
uh, okay, yeah. Here's the links to like Joey Fire, Lim Deer for like their Vimeo and Cash App and that sort of thing, and their like a GoFundMe. And here's like in case anyone else does actually have extra money as well too. I actually. Yeah, some of my transactions were declined my Chase card. I'm sure it's just like in the business day or two that like they'll like uh clear it up. And that's a good point, Osmoth. It's just like once like Garrett gets back, it's like I doubt that it's just like a 10% as well too. Honestly, in fact, like I shared a meme about like is you're like actually well off enough if you're like make over like a 37,000 $37,000 a year, and then I just kind of like you go, how many people are making that? That's actually upper middle class. That's rich as well too. In the
Hmm.
example, um, it's like 1% make that $300,000, 370,000, $370,000 a year. But only 1% of Americans make that. I think it was just Americans because of Wall Street Journal. Um, as well as like if with like if I only work 40 hours a day with my like wage as work, I'm actually at like $52,000 a year at the top end of the lower middle class, or honestly just very poor. Well, it's like under 32,000 is like broke, poor or near poor. I say you're just broke. Uh, but like with the overtime I do is like middle class. I'll be middle class, so 53,000 to 106,000 is what those. So I have to work overtime to be middle class or upper poor, honestly, because like the distinction of middle class is where that's well,
There is no
is
middle class.
yeah.
Is
Uh,
Kieran? I want to ask him another question.
mhm.
Does he?
Seems to be back.
I'm
Yes, it is.
back, by the way. Yeah.
Okay. Do you? So I'm a cosplayer. You know, cosplayer. I like to build model kits, things like that. Maybe you've seen my work around the internet. Do you believe that people who like have money and hobbies, would you and if they complain about not having a house or something, would you like blame them for spending money on, I guess, things that make like fun stuff or something, as opposed to them, I guess, saving money to get a house? Would you like make that conclusion, that jump in logic?
No, not a house.
Okay.
If you're spending money that you don't have instead of buying groceries
Okay.
and water, that's a separate issue.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I understand that. It's just some people I've met have said,
I don't have a house, Isaiah. I'm not rich. I
Okay.
live in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, I live in an apartment too. I was just wanting to ask because sometimes I've on very rare occasions someone would say, "Oh, well, maybe if you didn't buy cosplay, maybe you could probably get a car or something like that." And
No.
I kind of no, not quite.
But my job has put me in contact with several people who will buy tons of cigars, alcohol, and
Okay.
spend hundreds of dollars on our bank shot machines, and then come up short when wanting to buy some chips.
Sure.
And I don't feel like I should feel like an asshole because I'm thinking, You had the money a few minutes ago before you put that 20 into the bank shot machine.
They're
Okay.
desperate to try to like earn more money, and they probably think the only way to
That's
get more
greed. They could have easily spent
desperate.
20 on
I
the
said
package.
desperate to get out of their situation. Some people honestly believe the only way they can get rich is when the lottery was like a 1 in 7 million chance of going to a jackpot, and every week there's not a winner. So
And cigars and alcohol and cigarettes and
it's is it easy to like kick the habit once you like in the habit as well too. Then also people have like actually shown in the studies this where cigarettes are like more heavily advertised in like poor neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
I
and-
don't blame people for finding small pleasures where they can in the face of the immense suffering that is poverty.
And it's their decision as well too.
I also look at it too as like, well, what if I make that cosplay and someone like what if I design this 80s astronaut uniform and someone at NASA's like, hey, do you want to work on our spacesuits or something? I don't know. It's probably never gonna
I
happen.
would say take that job, Isaiah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What if someone actually likes the stuff I do and I don't know.
Yeah.
It never come at the cost of basic essentials. To me,
No.
basic essentials is food, fluids, whether that, I mean, water is one thing, but I know many people that can't do without coffee or tea. I'm a tea drinker myself during the mornings. But, you know, essentials to keep you going. You're using it for luxuries, that's a separate story.
Yeah, I mean, Keurig, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes, like, I've definitely spent more money on eating out than I should. I'm gonna be honest. I should probably learn to cook more. You know, save my money. You know, so like, yeah. I mean, there's things that I can work on, but I think my problem is like I live with roommate. Sometimes the roommates don't clean, and I don't want to clean up after them, and
Sorry, Isaiah. Well, I'll be fair, Isaiah. If you said something about me about like the way in the common areas or like the kitchen and something like that, oh, you're right. You're right. I should clean up after myself. I definitely would do that as well too. My room's a mess, but I think you would like say as long as you're just your room and it's not like the bathroom, the kitchen, and the living room, stuff like that, that'll be a problem as well too. Oh, but like I guess all my brothers have like mutually agree comfortable enough with some messes where too. The kitchen occasionally does get clean, but that's my young brother that does that as well. But sorry, I interrupt you.
I think I finished. I was
Okay.
like,
And Isaiah, you shouldn't have to clean up after other people's messes.
But like I also like have like worked like 12-hour days, so 6 days a week, and like even though I have free time on Sundays to clean up my room right now as well too, I'm going to like stream on Twitch because I want to play like Fortnite as well too, and because I'm in Diamond 3 and Rocket Racing, I want to grind to get to like Elite and Unreal, blah blah blah. But also streaming to
Joe McClurry,
Mhm.
I would outlaw gambling altogether if that
Why?
was. Why? Why have it?
I play poker.
People
Because it's
enjoy it. And remember that in communist world, no money, so you can't lose everything through gambling.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to play poker in a communist world, honestly. But I'm willing to do that.
But, I mean, the thing is, lotteries, poker, all that stuff, outlawing it, trying to control people, treating the symptoms, not the disease.
To me, again, the way I'm reading Joe's comment, gambling. To me, gambling, all that does is take away from people who really don't have money, steal their money, and give nothing back to them.
Mm-hmm.
I have it. You can play poker, Jonathan. I mean, play it without risking money.
So what? But why do you care about my actions, Girok? Do I hurt you by spending more on poker than I should? And why are you
You
determined?
don't hurt me.
But you do seem to care about like other people for like spending money on like on
I was
scratch
answering
tickets.
Joe's question, which was if people should be allowed to run gambling areas with poverty. They're
Yeah,
targeting specific people.
well, I mean, Kirak, I'll agree. If you need groceries, maybe you shouldn't like spend money on a Star Trek costume. You know what I mean? I get that part. I'm just,
Speaking as an addict, I can say that people often make terrible decisions because of addiction.
right. I'll agree with John with that. I also think some people are also, and this isn't like me giving them an excuse. I'm just explaining where it comes from. Like in my case, I never had a lot of friends. I never really felt welcome.
Hmm.
So cosplays and models and things like that were therapeutic. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that my trauma and my coping mechanism should get in the way of, basic obligations, but I guess people understood that more and didn't, I guess, become judgmental, I guess, or something like that towards
Hmm.
people who,
You know,
And,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, well, also the doc has another like a comment about addiction, and like people trying to self-medicate because they don't understand or can't acquire the help they need from therapists and psychiatrists, or just being in a safer home that they're afraid of losing. So it's like,
Hmm.
and my manager has even told stories how like she didn't have like enough money to like make rent. Manager for my gas station job, not my current manager. That she didn't have enough money to make rent one time, so she spent her friend like spent like their paycheck at the casino, but luckily won enough in order to like make rent. But then my point is like she shouldn't have to be in a position where she can't make rent. But what drove her to like decide to like, you know what, fuck it, let's like go for broke, as it were, is that like she was desperate. And so I really honestly don't judge people too harshly for like lottery and like the scratch tickets, because like yeah, there's something that like they're preying upon those like people in poverty to like spend money on scratch tickets, as it were, too, because they're desperate to be in the better situation. And I blame the society that like just doesn't care, that like lets them like suffer as well too. And I argue also that like in order for there to be rich people, there has to be poor people. And unless somehow it's a society where they're poor but they're not suffering at all for some reason despite being poor, I just still have a problem with like the power imbalance.
Well, I personally don't see how you're going to get rid of power imbalance under capitalism or
Why have a position of power? Well, that's the thing with can't give rid of the power balance under capitalism, because like that's the whole point of capitalism. Power in the hands of the few, while the many like have to serve under the powerful. That's why we don't
government
have
is still going to be a group of individuals in power.
no. We distribute the power as evenly as possible, as horizontally as possible, because like you read The Dawn of Everything by David Graeber and David Ringo. There were several people like back then it was like, do what I tell you to, and I just go, why? That's true freedom. It's freedom to refuse orders, freedom to say no. But like now, if like do what I do, say so, or else what? I'll fire you. And oh, I don't want to be fired. I can lose like my source of income. I can lose my house. I won't be able to get food. All right, I'll have to do what you tell me to. Granted, most of the times it happens for any reason. However, the Me Too movement showed us that was a labor dispute, and if the power imbalance is in the hands of the powerful that force others into doing so, then yeah, that'll happen.
I mean, there is the idea that there will always be a power imbalance, but we can set things up to eliminate that.
Well, the question is, how do you minimize the suffering of people underneath that power imbalance?
Or just eliminate the power imbalance entirely.
Yeah.
If you no longer have inherited positions, inherited wealth,
Yes.
you can eliminate a huge portion of that. And you also have to make it a point to limit or eliminate institutions insofar as humanly possible. Because once an institution exists, then it becomes self-justifying, and it gathers power to itself regardless of who is involved with it. Churches.
Yes.
Church
Yes.
faith.
Yes.
It would be difficult. It would require constant maintenance, obviously.
Yes.
But I think we could. That's why I'm a communist.
And that's why I'm anarchist. Because, like, as Rudolf Rocker said, I'm anarchist not because anarchism is the final goal. I'm anarchist because there is no final goal. It's a constant work in progress.
Right.
We all, sometimes it's within ourselves as well too, and others to call us out for that. Oh, Limpy, hello, yeah, man, yeah, this has been an interesting conversation, Limpy, as well. So I wish I hadn't like missed this much. I'm once again sick, and while like I catch this life, oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you can definitely watch it back not live, and then not be able to comment.
Because comments are turned off on this communist like live stream. That's the best answer we got for like why like you can't.
Don't know why. It could be because I'm an asshole. It could be because we have queer people on here.
I think queer person, unless someone else is also queer. Because
Well, we have queer people in the chat as well,
queer people in the chat, of course, yeah, absolutely. I think,
and we've had
almost the
other queer
entire
guests.
chat. We had other queer guests before, so like that. I think honestly, apart from like Mr. and Joe, if I know something about like you, yes, everyone else is like that I've seen that are queer as well. Phoenix, Ozma, Limpy, definitely. Us queries.
I think Joe is secretly queer. He's technically a cis.
What do you guys think I am?
What are you?
Autistic.
Definitely.
That's queer in the brain.
Okay. I'm gonna be like I've definitely seen some pretty handsome men, but
They're very symmetrical.
Keanu Reeves looking at you, but
No, he's a great guy too. Is he? Like,
You're absolutely right, Osmond. Capitalism requires unemployed people. There was no unemployment before capitalism. There was just work that needed to be done or work that didn't need to be done.
and sometimes there's even in like tribes and all like that, there are some people that just can't contribute as well because not according to their ability, not necessarily like toddlers because you said correct, they're being educated.
They're old, they're blind, they have arthritis,
Exactly.
things like that. Lots of stuff.
There-
They
there's-
did what they could, and they watched the kids. They might shell peas or mend nets. There's lots of things they can do that don't require the ability to run around with a scythe.
So we only got like 10 minutes left of our like normally a lot of time of like 90 minutes for like this show as well too. Kira, like, anything else you want to mention as well too? Because I think we talked about like private property and you gave us two. You gave me and James two examples. One of them was a guy who like is disabled but was for a time.
And
willing to
honestly,
work.
I really hated watching that. Just inspiration porn.
It was
It's
inspiration.
like,
porn.
he's the good retard.
Yes.
And I did not like watching that. All the condescending.
from
I'm a
Goodwill.
mentor to him. He's one of the good ones.
It was from the good. It was from the Goodwill Institute. So yeah.
So,
It-
Mr. Brockman, you are familiar with the story about my friend that is a customer of mine, right?
You're talking about the sex offender?
No, the other one.
the first one.
Oh, he's employee one or example one.
Yeah, he's the employee one, example one that
Okay.
was like featured from like Goodwill. Again, the inspiration porn.
Yeah. I mean, good for him. I love that he's getting out and living a good life, but I just hated watching that
They
video.
forced him to retire, but I think Jonathan missed the point. He worked because he lacked social ability to meet people. He wanted to make friends.
And I didn't know people that like do want to like get jobs.
That's
to, like,
one
get-
of the only good things about employment. Is
I
that you
agree,
get
that's
to get
a-
out and meet people. And like I said, I love that he's getting out and living a good life. I just hated the video.
Yeah.
No, it's not so good anymore. He's lost the use of his legs, and
But like he should.
and,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
But he should like have all the things that he needs in order to like live as well too. Now, and many of my like disabled friends, some of my friends will wish they could play more Fortnite, but like their fingers do not work with that the way they want to. But that's in their way. That person's case, my friend, it's actually Linquin, and she said though on live stream, is so she just needs to see a doctor. But medical care is gatekept in this society as well too.
That's why
Yeah.
it's great to have games like Baldur's Gate where you can, or various other D&D games where you can get out and be social via video games. It's not the same as that fast-paced, sort of cartoony Fortnite kind of feel.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different.
Hey, I say real quick.
Yeah.
I feel a little guilty about this. The example Mr. Brockman and Jonathan are using is a regular customer of mine who suffers from a disability. I don't know what kind. Like you said, I'm not a doctor, but he is.
It sounds like it's a progressive thing, and
Anyway, something that I'm not sure I shared with Jonathan was his mom had died. This person has a sister. When his mom died, she had money to give to both him and the sister. And yet,
So he got lucky,
felt the
too.
need to still work. Not because he had to. I mean, shoot. He could have lived off the system. He could have lived off his mom's money. He chose to work. And I honestly think, like I was telling them to, it was the result of wanting to meet people.
and I think that's why people would work under communism. Is just that pro-social, that desire to be part of a community.
Well, well, employment has a social aspect to it. You know, like
I agree.
like I work in a dorm room at a college, and I meet. It's the same people that I meet every day, but it's still a social interaction.
Agreed.
And even autistic people need social interactions.
Yeah.
The difference with autistic folks is that our interests are very niche. So so like
I mean, if we get Lynn P on the show one time, she would and let her go. She will talk about racing. She will talk about cars. She will talk about vehicles. That's why I brought on Nick Anderson one time to talk about the Railway series. Because he's really fascinated by like Railway series, what became Thomas Tank Engine, but also our audience will dug that too. Mithril, Groundhog, they all dug as well too.
I remember what's his name, Daniel Dennett, before he set up the something project with Dan Barker. It was for pastors, atheists in the pulpit. The way he described it was that these people became pastors because they were lured in by their own good intentions and then found themselves caught in a terrible trap. That they thought that they were doing something good for their community and then realized that they were just part of a scam, and they no longer believed. And I think that's an example of a parasitic institution taking advantage of our pro-social behaviors. Yeah.
I got two quick questions for Jonathan, actually.
Okay.
And I have asked you in DM, and you said you'd bring it up here.
Oh, yeah.
One, I haven't found any links, and I have tried to look via Google and Wikipedia. Goodwill, the company that helped my friend, is associated with the Goodwill clothing store.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're two separate entities or if they're one and the same.
They're probably slightly different. The Goodwill clothing store, because it takes in money, they probably keep it separate legally from the larger nonprofit, is my guess.
Because here in Tallahassee, Goodwill also has like they have an electronics store too, but it's the same as the actual thrift store. It's just thrifty electronics.
Well, the Goodwill is what put my friend in contact with the federal building where he got a federal job, where he worked there 40 plus years. I just didn't think they were connected. But you said you had problems with that organization. And
It's a religious organization, so
Oh, there's that. But like, I remember like someone brought up the Goodwill and negative context, and context is like Goodwill. I'm not sure if it's the clothing store or the like other organization. They pay their disabled employees less than minimum wage. That may be because you can legally allowed to, but even if you're legally allowed to, I still judge organizations that do pay disabled people less than minimum wage. Yeah, the law.
this is
changed.
right there in the Wikipedia page. Under Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938, organizations can obtain a special wage certificate to pay workers with disabilities a commensurate wage based on performance evaluations. Of Goodwill's 105,000 employees, 7,300 are paid under the special wage certificate program. So, about 7% are paid less than minimum wage because they're disabled, which includes veterans.
And my friend got lucky in that regard because he was not being paid below the standard. He was actually getting good wages for being, he did custodial work at the federal building, but at the time he was working there, keep in mind, he's been retired, what is this, 2024? I want to say a good 7 years. He was getting paid more than I was.
And Goodwill has urged Congress to expand this so that they can, has urged Congress to support legislation that would strengthen the FLSA and increase its enforcement, and to preserve opportunities for people with disabilities who would otherwise lose the chance to realize the many tangible and intangible benefits of work. They want Congress to expand the let's fuck over disabled people thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a big fan of big government. 40 years ago,
Well, this is just a non-profit organization operating under capitalism.
Yeah.
Trying to maximize their profits under capitalism so that they can continue doing their good work at the Are you playing Armageddon now, Isaiah?
I'm not playing anything. It's just on television. It's just cable. I don't. Oh no!
All I know is I saw Ben Affleck in a spacesuit.
I'm not playing anything. This is on AMC. This is on American Plastics.
And Armageddon is considered an American movie classic. It's
it's Michael Bay, and he has made a lot of movies. He is. Say what you will about Michael Bay. His movies are bad and poorly written, and he abuses women. I'm not going to follow that up with anything. He's just bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Armageddon is a really good movie if you turn your brain off. It's
Oh yes, absolutely. Agreed there.
Why the fuck would you send miners up in space? That's an incredibly specialized job.
If you turn your brain off and you're fucking stoned, it's a terrific masterpiece.
It does have Michael Clark Duncan. I'll give it that.
Yes, and Michael Clark Duncan dancing on the table in a leopard print thong.
Oh, and good news about that movie. That's the other movie where the black man survives to the end.
Yeah, that's right, he does.
That's something you can say about Michael Bay. He abuses underage women, but he doesn't kill the black guy. Always.
He did kill Tony Todd in The Rock, but then again, Tony Todd was nice, so never mind.
Yeah. I remember The Rock. Only movie nerds know about that.
I love that movie because, what's his name? Ed Harris, at the beginning, he's kneeling in front of his wife's grave, and you can tell it's his wife's grave because all it says on it is, his wife.
Not like Pearl Harbor, though. Pearl Harbor was shit.
Never seen it.
Tor, the much better old 1970s version of what Pearl Harbor wanted to be, but the modern version, but it was shit. Tor was actually a decent movie.
Yeah, Midway too. Midway also came out around that.
Oh, I haven't seen the Midway.
Not the Roland Emmerich.
I'm a fan of Midway games, although it seems in poor taste.
Yeah, Midway Games. They made Mortal Kombat, as it were, but now. I think they're still around, or they got absorbed by the publishing company.
They probably got taken in by. I have no idea.
I forgot the company that now.
Konami? No.
Oh, hold on, Konami.
Activision was the one I was thinking of, yeah.
Probably.
Warner Brothers Interactive purchased it.
Yeah, that makes sense because like the team that makes the Mortal Kombat games now as well too makes DC Unlimited as well too. So superheroes in like the Mortal Kombat engine as well too.
I miss the Arkham games.
Yeah,
I was never good at those.
Well,
You have to treat them like the original concept was for a rhythm combat game, like a dance game.
yeah.
So you treat it like that, and the game becomes much more understandable, at least in terms of combat.
Yeah. Because like that was the move, and like for other like even, I think even like beat ups or like fighting games, but non-arena fighting games is where it does. So side fighting games is just like
Way to ruin the joke, Joe.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I agree. Michael Bay is really, really good at visual spectacle. He would be a great director of photography. Same with Zack Snyder.
Yes,
Zack Snyder is like Michael Bay, but without the personality.
Yeah,
What
and
about
fascism.
Roland Emmerich? What about him?
Actually, I think Roland Emmerich has a purpose behind what he does. It's not a great purpose, and he is also great at visual spectacle, but he is actually creating stories in a way that Bay and Snyder are not.
Yeah, and Roland Emmerich is just very one note. He's just good at making a spectacle of disaster movies as well too. And
I don't think he's doing anything particularly deep, but he is doing it deliberately.
Yes, he does have.
Whereas Michael Bay makes noise and confusion, and Snyder just does shot for shot, panel for panel remakes of comic books.
Yes, which like sometimes that's gonna be good, but like I just hate the fashion Son Jones as well as too.
What about James Cameron?
No, James Cameron's a good director.
Oh, he definitely is doing stuff intentionally. I think his message has become diluted and weak as he's tried to build a common cinematic universe or some shit in later years.
Yeah.
I think it was his first wife or ex-wife now. Her movie Near Dark is amazing.
I haven't seen that one. Well,
See, did James Cameron do The Abyss?
yes, he did. I like that movie.
I love the Abyss.
Yeah.
I think I've liked every movie he's done. Of course, Titanic is my favorite.
Yes, guys, like see, Terminator and Terminator 2, Aliens, the second one. Did he do True Lies, or was that someone else? Oh, True Lies was a good one.
I think James Cameron is very very aware of the world he lives in and is doing it, not necessarily anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, but he's very realistic about them both.
Yeah.
And he is definitely an environmentalist.
And I did see Avatar in like the Blue People movie in theaters with
Dances with Blue Wolves.
Yes.
I don't want any sort of psychiatric incarceration, Lin P.
Yeah, and I hope that by proper.
I do want expanded psychiatric care.
Yes.
So
I want people to be able to wander in and out of psychiatric hospitals at will.
Agreed.
So before we sign off today, I'm gonna, for the first time, I will be watching this movie for the first time ever. Guess what movie it is?
Debbie Does Dallas.
No, but I want.
Okay, so like it's
Akira.
for the first time ever.
Am I a bad person if I said I've seen that one, Mr. Bruckman?
Oh, that is such a good movie.
The Shawshank. Oh yeah. That's the one I need to see.
That is the most beautiful bromance ever.
Mm-hmm. And a Stephen King novel.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
As well as the Green Mile.
Just be aware there's going to be some rough parts because it is set in a prison.
Right.
Yeah. I prefer that they don't shy away that sort of things as well too. And,
Isaiah, you've never seen that film?
I unfortunately
Remember, he's like 10 years younger than us. He was Babby when that came out, and Ted Turner made it the most popular movie ever.
I've never seen it either.
Back when
You haven't
everybody
seen it
was
either?
calling it,
Oh, go watch it now. Go pirate that shit.
Well, maybe later, as it were. So yeah. That now, because like after we're done with this show, I'm gonna like stream Fortnite as well too. Poke Blue Contest, yes.
We're writing my movie script when we're done with this.
Yeah. So like,
So Kirok, we ran out of time. We didn't even get to the bell rides or past tense or that Star Trek episode as well too. And yet I did
Did
see.
you even watch it?
I did watch it. I did watch it this morning.
I didn't watch the
what do you
DS9
think of it?
stuff. I didn't have time. I've been driving and sleeping. I've been having migraines all week.
Oh jeez, yeah.
I've been trying to do the morning rush hour and evening rush hour, and apparently all that sunlight is bad for my brain.
Did you say?
That's
Did you see Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan? Did you say Rush Hour?
I like this one.
What'd you think of it, Jonathan?
I like it, but I definitely was confused when you talking about the gimmies as well too. But the Dems are the people who are mentally ill, and John Brockman said, he want there to be more psychiatric care and be free form, more so that people can come in and come out as well too. Oh, so people.
I would love if we had a society. It was 90% doctors and farmers, 10% scientists.
Yeah, I'm actually fine with that too. Or if not 90%, no, use this doctors and nurses, because definitely nurses are very important as well too. Now I get my own change later up. Well, yeah, this is about the time where you.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes over. So.
So Isaiah Taylor, you have the Autistic Modeling Society YouTube channel and Sensor Intelligence, and you have your Instagram, Isaiah.Taylor.90?
60.
60. I can get it wrong every time.
69! Woo!
And there's no die, it's just 60.
Hey, Isaiah, good luck with your film. I hope you
That's why I
enjoy
said
it.
90%,
One
Osmo.
of my favorites.
But I think we
but yeah.
definitely need mostly caregivers. Hence,
Yeah.
nurses and farmers.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely need for engineers and programmers, but also a society where you can choose what you want to do, and under that society, I'll just be an actor most of the time. And speaking of me, I am Summer Geek, Summer Geek on co-host, Summer Geek on Tumblr, Summer Geek on Twitter, Summer Geek on Blue Sky, with barely any interactions on Blue Sky, but it is what it is. And not Summer Geek on Facebook, but Jonathan Scott, you can find me there if you haven't already. I will be streaming later on Twitch and YouTube. To get off this call, just gonna do some Fortnite grinding, maybe mostly that. I may switch up, I don't know. I want to get to Unreal and Racing before the end of the season. The season ends on March 8th, but blah. Charity links on page. Please give money to if you have extra money, consider looking into charity links on page, or consider giving to Phoenix or Joey or Joanna. Links I provided into the thing. I also Phoenix also has set up some Amazon wish lists and a Throne list for you to buy things directly to them and send it to them if you can, honestly. And then that's another way to help out. You find that easier. And share links on page. And John Brockman, you're part of the non-podcast, aren't you?
Dungeons and Debacles. We are a D&D podcast. Heck of a lot of fun. Slightly different from this. I may be changing my character, because he is an ignorant redneck preacher / paladin. And another character just kind of sold his soul to a devil and made the mistake of telling the party about it. And I don't think we can get past that conflict. I want to play a cat bard. Not a cat person,
Yes.
a cat who is a bard.
Yes.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
everyone.
Take care of each other.
Bye, Kirok, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.